Hey everybody, welcome. We're going to give folks about a minute to join and then we'll get started. All right, I'm going to try to keep the schedule, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in. Thank you everybody for being here this afternoon. Just in case we have any new folks on the line, my name is Maddie Kohler, Program Director here at NASEO. Work on all things residential buildings, but especially the home energy rebate programs. Today, just have one update from NASEO to share, and then we'll be turning things over to the North Carolina folks. So I think if we skip to the next slide, we've got the agenda for the call lined up. Yep. Alrighty. So here's the plan for today. Before we dive into a presentation from North Carolina about their program design, there's just a quick thing that I wanted to share with everybody. I'm going to drop in the chat a link to um, a DOE program called Energy Scaled. You all might be familiar with it from your Trek and Eat program applications. Um, but we're just trying to gauge interest from all of the states. If anyone is curious about learning more about the program, diving in deeper, if you are, please put it in the chat, email us, whatever it is, so that we can follow up and provide more information about this. So the link is in the chat for anyone that wants to check it out and let us know if you want further information. Reach out to me, Alana, anybody else at NASEO. And I think that's it. As everybody knows, it's spring break season, so we haven't been able to have our regular check-in calls with DOE staff, so I don't have anything to update on that front. I'll just put in a plug for upcoming calls. So on May 6th coming up, we're going to sort of reestablish, folks might recall this, our home energy labeling working group. We're pivoting slightly to be more all-encompassing and cover all energy disclosure policies. But for anyone that is implementing a disclosure policy or is curious about a disclosure policy, all are welcome. And our call on May 6th will be round robin updates from everyone who's currently offering a disclosure program. And then, of course, coming up on the 19th, we will have our next national call. So check out those events. Alana, if you have a second, can you please put our events page in the chat? And that way folks can register for either of those calls. Oh, question in the chat from Miriam about a disclosure program. By that, I mean any sort of program or policy where home energy information or utility bills is provided to consumers. And so maybe it's a program picking on California, like in Berkeley, where a disclosure of a home energy score is required at a time of listing, or in some states, utility bills are required to be disclosed. Um, those kinds of things, and happy to provide more information later. And Alana just put the link in the chat for anyone that's interested. And yes, we can. I see another question in the chat about sharing slides, and we certainly can share slides with folks that aren't able to make the call. Yes, feel free to reach out if you've got any further questions. We're happy to accommodate. But that is it from NASEO. Like I mentioned, excited to have folks from North Carolina on the line to share about their program design. They have a few slides to go over, and then we'll be taking Q&A. So thank you for being here, being willing to present. Helen will pull up your slides, but feel free to take it away. Thank you for being here.
Great. Thank you, Maddie and Alana, for inviting us here today. And we are very thrilled to give you an update and share whatever words of wisdom or knowledge that we encountered while we created our program. And so we're just going to jump right into the next slide. We launched our program on January 16th, 2025, and it was at the Train Technologies manufacturing facility in Davidson, North Carolina. And we were lucky enough to have dignitaries there from the Department of Energy. Our newly elected governor, Stein, was able to attend, as well as our new secretary of the department. And of course, the team that we have here at the state energy office that was instrumental in helping us get the program off the ground. And the event was attended by approximately 100 people representing various different stakeholders from around the community, meaning utility executives, community benefit organizations, and then of course our implementer, which is who is Jefferson Wells. And Jefferson Wells is our umbrella implementer, if you will. They are handling a lot of the administrative tasks, whereas we have a program implementer within Jefferson Wells called Everblue, that is actually managing all the programmatic side of it, including assessments and, marketing. So there's basically a team of implementers that we have. So we have Jefferson Wells, we have Everblue, we have Aptum, we have Franklin Energy. So there's a number of players that we're managing, helping get this program up and running. And we have taken the approach of having it'd be a crawl, walk, run philosophy, where we rolled out the program initially into 2 counties that were high energy burden and rural, just so we could get our feet wet and understand how all of our systems that we put in place, how well they work together, what are the nuances that we have to tweak in order to have it run very well. And I have to say that we decided in the creation phase back in April of last year, April and through the summer, that we wanted to create the program that would have enabled us to launch both homes and HEEHR at the same time with all measures. And that was really ambitious, and we're still sticking to that. We have yet to give out a rebate, but we've only been operational for a little more than 10 weeks. So or was it 12 weeks? So we're very optimistic that we can get some rebates out the door by the end of this month. And so that was really a very it's good news for us, because we're really looking at, like I said, we had a crawl, walk, run attitude. We're starting out slowly until we ramp up. And I think if we go to the next slide, that will be useful. So just looking at the program timeline, everybody's really familiar about, when the Inflation Reduction Act was signed. We worked on all of our documents from April through August of last year, got them all into the Department of Energy, and back and forth through approval process with the application, as well as the blueprints. We were hopeful to launch the program in November, but we just DOE wasn't fast enough in getting the reviews done for us to do that. So January was our next best bet. And so as a result, like I said, we expanded into we started in 2 counties, but we're expanding the program starting next month into counties in Western North Carolina. Those are the counties that were hit hard by Hurricane Helene. And so we'll expand the program as we go forward through the western part of the state, and then swing back to the eastern part of the state and the southeastern part of the state. And you can see on the next slide, I think there might be a map showing you what our expansion phases are. Oh, we go to the goals. But if you want us to flip through to the map, that would be great. There we go. So as you can see in phase 1, we started in the 2 counties. One was in the northeastern parts, like the deep maroon, Halifax County, and then Cleveland County. And we currently have about 300 applications from those 2 counties for both the homes and HEEHR. The majority of them are for the homes program, mostly because we've been counseling our CBOs to encourage those that are coming in to submit applications to first go through a home assessment, because a lot of people might just want the aesthetic things done, like, gee, maybe I just really want to have windows replaced, or we want to have a new dryer or a new stove. But we wanted to help educate our end consumers as well as to what good energy efficiency could do, looking at the whole envelope. And we modeled the program a lot off the weatherization assistance program. And we looked at, all the stats and data that was available to us over the years through doing weatherization. And so so for the homes project, we have a cap of $16,000 per project for low income, and then $14,000 for the HEEHR program. Next slide, please. So our current stats, as we look, we haven't had any lack of interest in this program, that is for certain. And so, it comes with its own unique challenges. As you can see here, we have over 31 total applications, with 2,300 of those being unique applications, meaning, people applied for the program. They go, well, they're not really fully understanding, so I'll apply for the homes, and then I'll go back in and I'll apply for the HEEHR program. And we're tweaking our application process to help have more of a map to guide people into deciding which program that they want to put themselves in. In the meantime, we're managing, contacting the people in the expansion counties specifically, so we can understand if they're in the homes or if they're in the HEEHR. So we have to manage how we can get the assessments done in those for those people that have self-identified. We continue to take applications. We get about 100 applications a week. And, all of our communication that we send out once they apply is that, if they're not in the counties that are already open and accessible, meaning that they're not counties that we already have contractors that have gone through the training program, then they get notified that they're put on a wait list. And they're okay with that, mostly. And then you can see we continue to do outreach events as well. And a lot of them are with our community benefit partners to keep them informed, and also using their situational awareness on the ground of how we can better serve the customers and the constituents. Next slide. As you know, the contractors are a vital component of this program, and that continues to be a challenge for us. But we've had, as you can see, 185 contractors express interest. Of those 185, we actually have received 34 applications, and as of last week, we've approved 13 of those contractors, meaning they've gone through the whole vetting process. They have the contractor participation manual that we've created, and they're familiar with the program requirements. And then they will be going through online and in-person training as well. Once they get vetted and get approved, they're in a provisional status, and then they're put onto our website so customers can find the contractors. And once the contractors perform the work, every contractor that's new in the program will have their first 5 homes gone through quality control before they're put into a non-provisional status on the website. Next slide. We can't do this program alone. And as I mentioned earlier, we have our implementer, who's Jefferson Wells, who's our umbrella implementer, if you will. And then we have Everblue that we work very closely with Aptum and Franklin Energy. They handle the different aspects. So Aptum handles the marketing aspects. Franklin Energy is handling the assessments. And then we also have our state partners, which for the Department of Health and Human Services, we have a memorandum of understanding with them that they will send us income qualified applicants basically people that are already in their programs that we labeled as categorically eligible. And then that way it helps us in the process so we don't have to go through our own eligibility vetting. We already know that they are eligible for the program through DHHS. And then one area that we were keyed in on actually was the secretary of our department said, hey, why don't you use these, use our state library system because they're a wonderful resource. And it's like, wow, we never really thought of that. And they're very receptive, especially in the western part of the state with Hurricane Helene. The libraries have been a vital link to the community and getting information out to them. And then, of course, we're working with our utility partners. Duke Energy is the largest utility provider in the state of North Carolina, but we also have over 100 different municipalities and co-ops as well that we continue to have conversations with. The first memorandum of understanding we're having with data sharing is with Duke. And then once we have that complete, then we have a model in which to approach the rest of the utilities in the state. And then two very active community benefit organizations that we've worked with, the Center for Energy Education, which is in Halifax County. They've really stepped up to the plate and helped their community members apply for the program because the majority of the applicants in Eastern North Carolina, and probably true in the rest of the state, have been, people who are elderly, don't have access to the internet, don't have an email address, so there are some hurdles that we had to walk to go over or get over for not only how we administer the program, but for an education component for our community benefit organizations as well as the consumer. So as we continue to roll out the program and as we get information, we continue to tweak our process so that the first and foremost thing is we want to have a really great consumer experience and try not to leave anybody behind. So I see we got some great questions coming in, and I'll get to those in just a second. Next slide, I think. Let's see. Yeah, our next step. As I said, we're going to be expanding into our Hurricane Helene affected areas, and then we also are continuing to expand our contractor network. We will have retail, but not for a couple of years right now. We really want to be able to get our rural and high energy burden people into the full program. And eventually to help with market transformation, we will do retail as well as multifamily. We'll be looking at how we can incorporate our multifamily properties into the program. And we're also looking at, we had a broad reach as far as marketing was concerned, but now we're going to start to do really some hyper local media. And as we roll out the program and into the specific counties, we'll be being able to target some very local media markets there. And I think that might be it. I don't know if the next slide. Yeah, questions. So that was a really quick overview of what we've done so far and, some of the mindset, but I'm happy to take questions. And Maddie, do you want to ask those questions as we go?
Sure. Let's start what I believe is the first one that we got during your presentation, which is what kind of information is in your contractor handbook?
Oh my gosh. It's an 80-page manual. And it's everything from what the program is about to what the requirements are to maintain yourself in the program to how are you going to go about getting the rebates, what's the communication that you're going to be sending to the homeowner. So it's a pretty in-depth manual, not just about programs, but really it's a step-by-step. Here's what's required of you in order to become a part of our network.
Thanks. All right. I believe the next one is how are you paying for home energy assessments for households that don't move forward with a rebate application?
That's a really, I appreciate the question because that's something that I know we'll be looking at in depth as we roll out the program. Because right now we're under, we have the good fortune, part of our memorandum of understanding with Duke Energy. So I guess let me just back up. When we look at all the different programs that are out there and available, the weatherization assistance program, utility programs, this program, there'll be our Solar for All program coming up in the remaining, later on this year. And every single one of those programs needs an assessment done of the home. And in order to streamline that, we are looking at how we can work with our utility partners, first of all, to capture all the utility information at one fell sweep for all of those programs. And we have the great opportunity with Duke Energy, who also has a mandate to do some weatherization and energy efficiency in their program, in their customer homes. And so we're looking to see if Duke can help share the cost of our evaluation. So if an assessor goes in and they don't move forward with our particular program, but they move forward with Duke's program, the assessment is really kind of already paid through by Duke at that point. But it is something that we're going to keep an eye on because right now we've had 9 assessments done in the last 2.5 weeks in Halifax County. And so far, we're still reconciling, how to, if the homeowner is going to go through with all the recommendations. Some of the assessments have come in above the $16,000 threshold. And so what would happen, what are they going to pick and choose, and will they still be able to get the full rebate? So there are a lot of nuances that we're still working out. And that's the reason for crawl, walk, run.
The next one is have contractors expressed any concerns about floating incentives and waiting for reimbursement? And I see that Julie jumped in on this one saying yes, and that you're working towards a 5-day goal. Is there anything you want to add to that?
We've had our eye on that from the very beginning of creating this program. We've had the good fortune last year during our state energy conference, literally a year ago, like next week, that we met with a lot of contractors and a lot of subgrantees for the weatherization program, and that was the first big, bell, ringing the bell of, contractors aren't going to wait for their money. How are you going to handle this? So we have been working on that. And our first rebates, I said, will be going out the door hopefully by the end of this month. And we'll see how close we are to making that 5-day turnaround for them.
Julie, you want to add anything? I see you came off mute.
Not on this one, but
Okay.
I'm here. I'm ready.
Okay, great.
Comes up, I can help with.
Great. The next question we have is about your partnership with libraries. And the question is, how did you prepare the libraries for assisting the program? What materials did you provide them with, and what is their specific role?
Yeah, so our libraries, we're kind of treating them like a CBO almost. We are giving them the same information. We're giving them like rack cards, and we're giving them flyers, and we're training them, on the basics of the program and where to send people, and let them and having an understanding of what technologies they have available in their library so people could apply. And, we're being reassured, especially in the western part of the state, that yes, they do have, computers available, but they won't have staffing available really to help anybody walk through the process. So, we're still working out the details for them, but they've been a very willing participant, and really an eye opener of saying, wow, they do have a lot of resources, and librarians are always more than happy to help people find something, right? So we're thrilled to have their partnership.
We've got another question in the chat about partnership, and folks asking about coordination with weatherization. Julie jumped in to say, yes, it's in the same office, so it was a no-brainer. Anything either of you want to add on that one?
This is Beth from Minnesota Department of Commerce. I guess Minnesota is looking to connect with other states who are using DOE's HER WAP integration recommendations. So I think our planning consultant had reached out to some folks in Colorado and also in New York. But if anybody on this call is considering that or is in the process, if you could just let me know in the chat so I can connect, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
One of the advantages that we do have, since the weatherization and this program are both in the state energy office, our implementer has worked very closely as well with the subgrantees, and we've been engaging them and starting to get them engaged. I mean, they're busy right now, weatherizing homes for the rest of this year. But, come summer when we're rolling out to the western part of the state, we're focusing on those subgrantees that would be available, because we still have to, we're very careful making sure we have to make sure that obviously the money's not duplicated, right, for the same measure. And, so we will be paying attention to that. But the subgrantees are more than excited to participate in the program with us and use their contractor network that they do have, and or their crew that they have. So some of our subgrantees are crew based and some are contractor based. So those that are contractor based, I mean, they'll still have to go through the training so they fully understand how the program works.
I see a question here about readiness, and just want to share, we have some additional things going on in North Carolina this year that are a little unusual. We have additional funding from our state legislature for the western North Carolina areas that were hit by Hurricane Helene. Additional readiness dollars, and we're utilizing both weatherization service providers and other local government entities to get that money out into the community. And the idea is, let's get those homes ready and then funnel them back into the weatherization program. And then separately looking at additional funding for the weatherization program to be able to do those additional homes. So that's something that's unusual. Don't know exactly how long that additional funding will last, but we're excited to be able to get not only get more homes ready to go into weatherization, but also to get some homes off the I'm forgetting the word, Helen, the list.
Wait list or deferred list?
Thank you, deferred list from our weatherization service providers. And sometimes that's because they need heating and there's not enough funding available. Sometimes it's for the kind of things you're talking about. There's maybe it needs a new roof, maybe it needs, some other significant repair. So we're hoping that part of that effort, because we're working with both local governments, nonprofits, and then the funding that's for the weatherization service providers, that we're going to increase communication between all those entities as we try to resolve the significant issues in that portion of the state. And so hopefully from that, we'll figure out some additional efficiencies in these programs and also find out what those pinch points are and where we do need additional funding.
Thanks for that. It looks like the other chatter in the chat is about other states that are thinking about stacking together weatherization and the rebate programs. Looks like Illinois, Massachusetts, and maybe also Alaska are all looking at doing the same thing. But if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to add them to your chat, or also now raise your hand or turn on your camera, and we can do questions that way too. And as folks consider, I'll ask my question of any difficult lessons learned that you want to share with other states, anything to avoid repeating, anything like that?
Yeah, so some of the lessons learned is finding out early on the ground situational awareness. So, we have, CBOs our Center for Energy Education, God love them. They're really wonderful, folks, and they do really wonderful work. And they were very enthusiastic about the program. And so we had to almost rein them in because they was like, hold on a second, they really first we had to educate them because they thought it was like, oh, help me pay my utility bill type of program or help me fix my house type of program. And, so we really had to be very clear in multiple communications with them about this really is what the program is about. And give them support, right? Like, we gave them as much of the marketing materials as we had, and we were, went to a few of events that they did have, just so they could fully understand what the program is about. And so there are the CBOs out there that have been watching for this and waiting for this program for a long time. And I can't stress enough how much communication you need to do all the time with those key players. They'll make themselves known, and to the point of sometimes they're a little bit annoying because you want to get some other work done, but they're really important for the project, and you want to harbor and create those relationships really well. So, but communication is the key, and bring them along all the time, and understand that they're trying to do the best that they can as well. So another lesson learned is, how to bring in some contractors, right? Like there's all kinds of, look at all of your, what are your resources out there currently that have those contractor networks, and tap into them and make them your friend as soon as you can, and see if they're, willing to share the information. Utilities have their own set of contractors sometimes, so it's a slow process, but it's an important one to get things moving. I mean, I think we have a few people within our implementation team that are working on specifically just vetting the contractors, and that's a long process. It's making sure they have all the licenses, and that they're not on any do not pay lists, and that they have the right certifications. It's just that whole, all the details that you would want to have, so that you have the confidence when you send that contractor out to somebody's house that they're going to be doing the right thing.
Yeah, and I would add, we're learning from the implementer how to improve the program on a weekly basis. I would say we meet with them, and we're figuring out ways to make the application process clearer, to make sure that the applications come in with all the attachments they need, and that people really understand the program. And that's been really helpful. It's time intensive. The implementer has a call center, so they have people talking to the applicants all the time, but it's great feedback to help us understand where there are issues. We need to make something clearer or provide additional information to help keep things moving forward. I'm really excited that we're already at the point of rebates going out the door. I think that's a huge win. And I think the rollout process is another key piece. I think if we had tried to roll it out all at once, looking at the 3,000 applications we've already gotten from across the state, we wouldn't even know where to begin. And this slow rollout helps, especially on the contractor side, because we can talk to them every week about how many applications we've already received in their area, what types of work people are interested in. I think it's going to be helpful as we continue to roll out across the state to have that real-time information at our fingertips.
I agree. It's a huge win to get to the point where you're at now, issuing rebates. I saw a few people pop their cameras on. So, Ken, was there anything you wanted to add?
I have a question.
Yeah, Sean, go ahead.
That was a good presentation. I have a lot of questions, but I'll just turn to one. Was there any challenges, even though you got your back in early January before the change in administration? Was there any kind of roadblocks once the change took effect, with any issues with your program?
I have been operating, and I've had the great fortune to have the support of, Julie as the director, as well as the department, has been very clear that this was such an important program that even with the change of administrations, we were looking at ways how to, uh, you know, keep operational, even though we had a lot of federal challenges, as we all have at the state level from with all the changes are happening. But, having that commitment from, it's actually, from the governor on down, to keep this program moving has been really a godsend, because I think we could have been just like any other, a lot of the states that put their program on pause when everything started to happen. But yeah.
And our implementer, they were willing to,
Yeah.
float us, not reimbursing them right away for a while to help continue moving the program forward.
Yeah, it truly is a partnership with our implementer. It's that I talk to them, pretty much daily. If it's not the marketing team, it's the contractor, it's the, manager of the implementation team. And, and then of course, when quarterly reports come up, it's talking with, Jefferson Wells, who's helping with all the administrative type of things. So, yeah, I sometimes forget that they're not a state employee, because they really are always available to us and willing to be creative in the solutions that we to the problems that we're looking at.
Thank you.
Ken, feel free to go ahead if you want to add something.
Okay, finally. I've got 3 screens here, and to find my mouse to get to the right screen, to get to the right thing is a real pain in the butt. But question actually that came up for me today. Does anybody know anything in regards to if the DOE is rescinding the option to be able to have both the dryer and the stoves at 840?
I haven't heard anything to that effect.
Okay, and the reason why I'm asking is because I was asked by my my officer to change what we had done in our state, in our narrative, in which we had provided $840 incentive for either, not either or, but for both the dryer and the stove. And now I've received some conflicting information this morning. I have not heard from her as of yet to verify this, but I'm just curious to know if anyone else had by chance heard anything that they're going to change and go back to the original process of you get 840 for either or and not both.
Who's your officer?
Bobby Coon she's in Oklahoma. And like I said, this just came up this morning. She sent me an email, and I didn't know what the hell she was talking about. Actually, I had to call my state accountant, and I'm like, okay, I'm not understanding this. But after she kind of explained it to me, and the fact that she wants us to go back to the original document, I'm confused now in regards, and I was just curious to know if anybody has heard any news about things changing in regards to the rebates we can provide. And this is, of course, for HEEHR. Yenny, have you
Yeah,
heard
feel free to
something?
jump in.
Oh, hi, Ken. Hi, guys.
Hey.
So as you guys know, New Mexico has launched back in September last year with insulation, and then shortly after we did electric cooktops and heat pump clothes dryers. And in our experience, we have been offering both at 840, and it has been working perfectly with the API. So I know that at least the API is set up for that, and so we have been offering 840 for each.
Okay, that's good to hear. Like I said, I'm kind of flying blind here because this just hit me this morning. But I thought, well, heck, maybe this is something that is, well, obviously, my thought would be this is something that, maybe everybody's starting to hear or somebody's heard about aside from myself. So I tread with caution when I say this, that I don't know exactly what, because I haven't spoken to her yet to know exactly what information she's looking for. But essentially, the email sounded like they were trying to claw it back, so I'm not sure. Also, Helen, excellent presentation. Great work. I'm glad to see people starting to kind of get things moving. This is cool.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a joy to work on.
Tom, I see that you turned on your camera, but did you get your question answered in the chat about paying the applicant versus the contractor? Feel free to jump in.
Yes, I did. Thank you for that. I had more of a comment, but we're still in the question zone, so I can wait.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
the rebates are paid through the contractor.
Yes.
Okay, we had originally looked at that, but the capacity in this state for our workforce is pretty limited. In Alaska, we don't have a lot of contractors, and most of them are so busy already anyway. You know, this is not creating a huge market uplift for them. So, um, have you run into any issues with paying contractors directly, or is that working out pretty well? I mean, are they able to provide you all the data points that you need for reporting and all of these things?
Stay tuned because we've yet to issue a rebate, but
Okay.
maybe later this summer, early this fall, I'll have more data for you and how well that's working out.
Fair enough, because right now I'm breaking from meeting with my data integrators, and we've been in a 2-day workshop now, and that's what the question that just came up. How do we get all of the data reporting requirements when you have a contractor who's like, hey, I'm gonna write a number down on an invoice, you know, and hand it to you versus them uploading it, if they can fill out the data fields and all of those types of things. So that kind of administrative review and oversight. How do you get the data from that activity to properly report to DOE through the API associated with that particular rebate? So,
Yeah, well, the contractors won't get paid until they give us all the information we're requiring.
gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Nicole, I see you've got your hand up. Would you like to go ahead?
Hi, thank you. I'm with New York State, NYSERDA. My question is regarding our contract with DOE. And great job, Helen, by the way. Great presentation, great work. What a heavy lift. That's fantastic. You should be really excited and proud. So we spoke with DOE about the fact that our period of performance in our contract is due September 30th, 2025, along with the end of our tranche that we're currently in. And so that's about 6 months away. DOE had said that a lot of states are in this situation, that they'd only done contracts for 2-year periods, and that they are hoping to automatically renew those contracts. They also could not provide assurance that those contracts would be renewed. So we are working off the fact that we may or may not be able to go forward after September 30th. Another issue with that is that we are only allotted a one-time no-cost extension of the contract currently. So that means if we were to use that for this one, we may not be able to use it in the future, even though those contracts are only be for 2 years at a time. Has anybody else spoken to their person at DOE, and are you in the same boat? And is there anything we can do as a group to rally to really make sure that this is done in a timely manner? Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. And folks can feel free to message Nicole or the folks at NYSERDA directly, or feel free to message me or anyone at NASEO if you've got thoughts on it. It looks like, looking at the chat, California has the same issue of September end of their contracts. And I would bet that the other states that launched first might be in the same bucket. And I can raise this with the SCEP team when we have our check-in with them to see. I'm sure they're aware. I hope they're aware, but maybe get an update on what their plan of action is. All right. Do we have questions? Yes, Sean, go ahead.
Yeah. So you're trying to basically provide rebates within 5 days. Is that correct? And what was your what's the states, I guess, in North Carolina, was it like 30 days originally, or like, because I know in Pennsylvania here, I think it's way it's set up is like 30 days, but we're trying to the reduce the time to turn around and give out rebates. But I'm just wondering if you guys had the same challenge or.
Yes.
Yeah, that will TBD, right? We have the good fortune of having an implementer that is willing to pay out the rebates, and we reimburse them in a 30-day window. So, like I said, our first rebates will be going out the door hopefully by the end of this month, if not the very beginning of May. And so they have the nimbleness, if you will, that they can turn around a payment to a contractor relatively fast. And then it's up to us to get the payment back out to the reimbursement back out to the implementer in order to make them whole.
And
Are
Sean,
they charging us financing costs? They're absorbing it, I believe. There's no financing cost to us.
And early on, Sean, before they had agreed to do that, we did look at some other options, including creating sort of a slush fund that implementer could pull from to get the funding out to the contractors quickly, and then we would reimburse that fund. So same thing as what's happening now, but there would be a balance in it to start with. So we looked at several options.
Thank you.
Jody, let's go to you next.
Really the same question. I'm just trying to figure out more about how this works because this is a big concern for us. So when you are looking to reimburse the contractors within 30 days, in order to get funding, invoices paid by DOE and pay them back within 30 days, are you invoicing DOE like when the project scope hits or when measures are installed? How are you going to make that work to get funding out within 30 days?
So first of all, as Julie said, we looked at the first option of having like a separate kitty, if you will, for that was going to be a holding tank, and then our implementer stepped in and said we can do that for you because it was going to, there certain rules that you have to adhere to, of course. And so how it's going to work is that the implementer is going to pay the contractor. The implementer will then invoice us for what they paid out in rebates, and then we will invoice. We will get reimbursement from DOE. So it's the lag time for what we have to do with DOE. It's going to be on us, the state, to be carrying that money for X number of days, basically. But we want to get our implementers whole as quickly as possible. And then we have to wait for approval to draw down money from DOE.
So that might not happen within 30 days. That's just your goal.
No, it will. The payment to the contractor is going to happen immediately. It's just a matter of what's the float for between the state and the implementer and the state and DOE.
So the point is that it's very difficult to get the 30 days paid if we're waiting for DOE invoicing, and so you have another party who's fronting the money, so you have a little flexibility on the back, right?
That is correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
If you have any additional questions, feel free to jump in or add it to the chat. Yeah, Jody.
I have another totally separate question that maybe not for Helen. Is that okay?
Sure.
We're just we want to know if anybody is running for the homes program, large multifamily, and has figured out a vendor or a way of doing a post-install certificate for large multifamily. Anyone?
Hi, Jody. Rhode Island is.
Oh, excellent. Okay, maybe we'll chat.
Yeah, just reach out and I can give you the details.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I know there's many that want to do that, so maybe we'll have some more examples for you in a couple of months.
Thank you.
Let's see. Questions about Beth in Minnesota is asking the group if any state has had communication about lifting their conditional status with either homes or HERA. I'm going to guess the answer is no, but someone please jump in if that is not correct. I think everyone is in the same boat, but please jump in if not. Oh yeah, Manuel, please go ahead.
The only thing we have is that we finally on Monday got a new project officer. And on Monday, I sent an email to her asking what is the next step without a conditional grant. And she haven't reached to me yet. I called her, but she didn't answer. So we're still waiting. But at least good news, we have a new project officer.
Always helpful to know the right person to call.
Yeah, Jody, I think we're all in the same boat. No one's heard nothing about anything about nothing. So
Yeah, and to kind of iterate that too, we run both WAP, we have Solar for All and some other programs through, and the SCEP program and the SCP program, and amongst those four, we're getting the same feedback. We will talk about budgets of awarded funds and your quarterly reporting, but nothing of substance regarding details of the grant or even the status of review of anything. I mean, literally, they will not even respond verbally when asked these questions. It's like 2 minutes of airtime going, and then. So that's what we're experiencing.
All right, I'm just keeping an eye out for any additional questions in the chat or via camera. Please give me a signal if there's anything else you'd like to add. If not, we can start wrapping things up. Thank you, Helen, Julie, and the entire North Carolina team for being here and for sharing your updates. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to regroup in a few months, if not longer, to sort of like get an update about how things are going, actually getting money out there into the world. But super exciting that you've gotten this far so far. Our next call will be coming up in May. As always, if you have requests for topics, for anything that you want to see in these conversations, please don't hesitate to reach out to anyone at NASEO about your preferences. Always happy. We want to be responsive to what is the most useful to you all. But with that, let's wrap things up a little bit early. Please reach out. And as always, thank you so much for spending so much time with us to discuss these programs. Really appreciate all the information that you share with us and with your peers. It really means a lot. Have a great rest of your afternoon, everybody, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
everybody take care.
Good night.
Good luck. Have fun.